Hello and welcome to the Point to Rise show. This is your host, Suzanne Prochelle, former international ballerina that found her passion in mindset, business, and technology, and is today the founder of Rise Media. It is my purpose to use all the experiences of my past to create a better, financially sustainable future for the performing arts industry. And that starts with every single one of us. I believe that being you is your superpower. And I am here to guide you, empower you, inspire you, and give you all the resources you need to rise above what you think you're capable of. Every week, I'll bring you 3 shows featuring guests, collaboration, and mini episodes to ensure that you have the support in your journey as a performer. I want you to know that you are not alone. Stop chasing and start creating. Your success starts now, here with you. So let's go. Hello, and welcome back to the Point to Rise podcast. Today's guest is Amy Getz. So I promise you that I'm going to bring in a little bit more versatile guests, not only performing artists, but from any stream and node of life. So Amy, she is a financial advisor with IRC Wealth, an SEC registered boutique investment firm in Atlanta, Georgia. She's also a CPA and a certified divorce financial analyst. In addition, Amy is the Money and Finance Chapter Director of the National What Women Want Networking Organization. Amy is on a mission to educate individuals about their finances and empower them to set big goals for their financial future, letting go of limiting beliefs around money and facing the real numbers allows people to quit the stress loop in their mind and elevate everyone around them. Wealth is in the hands of good people, changes the world. So true, isn't it, guys? So when Amy is not working, she loves to travel with her family and connect with friends or read a good book. So without no further ado, let's get into the money game. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about energy. And here's Amy. Amy, welcome to the show. I'm so grateful to have you on here. I'm so grateful that we've reconnected. And yeah, let's talk all about money and wealth and why that is great and why money in hand of women is where we need to go. What can we do with it? What stigmas do we have to break? What are we choosing to think and to see? And let's talk a little bit about performing arts too and their money mindset. So before we jump into all that juicy stuff, I'd love to know where your great relationship with money, where was that seated? How did that come about?
I've often thought about this because when we're talking about money and money mindset, you really need to kind of dive back into your childhood, right? Like that's essentially where your platform stems from, and you either embrace it or you have to sort of break those patterns. And for me, the message that I clearly remember from my childhood was money doesn't grow on trees. And I heard that often. And it's not to say that I didn't have a wonderful childhood with parents who loved me, but I can remember thinking that lack was sort of that pervasive, there wasn't always going to be enough. And I did not want to live like that. And I chose early on to change that structure for me, to say, I'm going to college. I got an accounting degree in college. Like numbers are not going to get the best of me. I'm going to understand them. And I luckily started investing at a young age because I knew that I didn't want to have a lack mindset as I got older. And so for me, the way to quote, fix that was to start saving at a young age. And so as I've obviously evolved and grown in what it is that I do, I've started to spend more time on the actual money mindset. But I'm grateful that I sort of strategically got my way there by accident. And it was really just to try and say, I'm not going to do and follow the same patterns. I want to be different.
Yeah. Wow. So by choice, isn't that interesting? Because so many of us, including myself, we're not even aware of where our money mindset is, meaning that we just keep repeating what either has been, input into our subconscious, thinking, oh, this is the way it has to be. I am not the boss of it. I have to just succumb my circumstances. And the more so power to you that was your choice. I made that same choice with, I think, parenting, but not with money, because I just didn't understand what deep rooted subconscious beliefs were actually input into me. So what do you do? Tell me.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Yes, I am a wealth manager. I'm a financial advisor, a financial planner. All those kind of go into one. What I don't do is sell any insurance, right? So what I do is help people, women are my favorite, create a financial plan for their future, for what I like to call financial freedom. I don't even like to call it retirement, because not everybody wants to retire. They just want to know that they could. So I help people create that financial plan. I help keep them accountable. I sort of quiet that stress loop in their brain. I spend a lot of time on their money mindset and what their limiting beliefs are, so we can shift those and ultimately invest their money in the stock market for that future growth. And I walk with them on their journey. They are always in charge of their money. I'm kind of a coach that helps them along the way, keep good choices in line, make them accountable to the simple plans that we create. So that's what I do.
Wow. Okay. So everybody basically should have you in their life.
If you don't have a me, you should have someone similar to me, right? You need to have, I often say, listen, if your car's not working and you want to have a tune-up, where do you go? The mechanic. If you're not feeling great, who do you see, right? The doctor. Or even if you want to put it in the terms of, if you want to go to the Olympics, you kind of need a coach to get there. So if you want to be successful, you reach out and have someone help you. If you need a tune-up or you're not feeling great, you also find resources that way. So that's why I spend a lot of time talking about mindset, because so often people don't even think they are worth having someone in their corner with their finances, that they have enough worth, literally or figuratively, to reach out to get help. And so I want to encourage everyone to start to find someone that can help them on their financial journey. There are resources and people available to you. You don't have to do it alone.
You don't have to do it alone. Well, amen to that, 100%. And particularly when we're talking about money, isn't that something I at least grew up with? Like, we don't talk about that. Like, why would I get help? Because I need to know what to do, even though nobody taught me. So maybe I should just go and figure it out myself. And that was the depth of me many times, over and over in my life.
Yes, it's such a taboo topic. Let's cut that out. Let's make it okay to talk about. We're not bragging. We're not, I don't want it to be in the extremes where we're talking about, how amazing we are or how awful we are. Let's just have the conversation. Let's get in the room with people that are curious, that want to learn, that want to level up their money mindset. And there's so many ways and opportunities to do that. Again, we all know that it goes back to who you spend your time with is who you're going to emulate. So let's make sure you're in the room with and surrounded by people that also want to up level their money mindset and their financial future.
So when we're talking about money mindset, because we use that word over and over again, let's go a little bit deeper on that. Yes, let's talk about some limiting beliefs that are very common. And I'm talking to you, audience listening, take out a piece of paper and a pen and see what really you relate to. How did that show up perhaps in your life? And maybe also we get to how you can actually break through that. So Amy, what kind of limiting beliefs around money do you see often, either in your clients or something that besides money's not growing on trees?
Yes.
What comes up? What are the stories?
The number one I would have to say is, I'm just not good with money. I'm just not good with math, right? That people downplay their ability to manage their money as if it is some sort of complicated equation. And how I sort of bust that limiting belief is it's kind of elementary school math. Like people think the numbers are actually the scary part of financial planning, of, looking at your financial future. The numbers are the easy part. It's basic kind of addition and subtraction, right? The difficult part is the mindset, is the emotions and the decision making. So when people say, oh, I'm just not good with math, or I'm just not good with numbers, I don't buy that. I don't buy that. We all know basic math, and that's what you need. How much you make less how much you spend is how much is left over, right? Let's talk about saving that. But it is not a scary subject to talk about numbers. The scary subject comes when we start to assign our value to the numbers. And that's where we have to sort of take a step back and recognize we are not defined by our bank accounts.
Wow, nice. And if I may add, like the numbers also, not only do they not define who we are, I think what I can relate to, and why I didn't like to look at it, because it defined what I can't and can do.
Yes.
What I wanted to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I absolutely get that. Whereas for me, I look at it as baby steps on the opportunity ladder of, it's just a stepping stone in getting you to where you want to be. Instead of looking at it in terms of that lack mentality, you look at it as one rung higher on the ladder of where you're trying to get to. It's so much of it is really just the language that you use. Another limiting belief, especially in the entrepreneurial world, or even maybe even in the community that you work with, is paying taxes. I don't want to pay taxes, right? Like, and that really is a struggle for people. And what I just like to tell people is taxes are inevitable. You're going to have to pay taxes when you earn income. But when you are paying taxes, you are earning money. Like when you're paying a little bit more than you did last year, holy cow, you've made more money than you did last year. Like if we can just be conscious of when we earn money and we need to set aside an amount for taxes, what happens is a lot of times people kind of don't have that good financial advice and they don't know to set money aside. So then that first or second year of entrepreneurship comes around and they have this tax bill they're not expecting. And then they start to really form limiting beliefs around it. And so what we have to do is just be able to manage that. When we earn money, we have to set aside money for our taxes so that it's not scary and you're prepared for it when the time happens. And then again, I want you to take advantage of all the tax credits and all of the opportunities to save on your taxes. But I also don't want you to freak out when you have to pay taxes, because that is as a result of you earning income. And that is a good thing.
Oh, yes. Do you know who broke that to me? Because I was, in Germany, you pay like your 50% of your salary goes to taxes.
Yes.
And that was always something I'm like, grinched about it and like growled at. And I think Chris Harder was the one, well, why aren't you grateful that you actually are capable and able to pay taxes?
Yes.
First of all, let's flip this whole thing on its head to get you out of the lack mentality, right? Of the,
yes,
I want to give my money up. Something else came in, and I think I am gladly paying taxes as long as I don't pay 8 different kind of taxes on the same dollar that I earned. And I think nowadays we have so many ways of finding different investments and strategies that doesn't need to happen. All you have to do is like educate yourself to a certain level. So you can ask the right question to your finance coach.
Absolutely. And I would encourage everyone to consider taking advantage of having someone, whether it's a CPA that helps you with your taxes, whether it's a financial planner such as myself, who's able to kind of walk through tax strategies. But in addition to that, I want to encourage folks to make sure they're saving pre-tax for retirement. Want to talk about an awesome way to reduce your taxes and pay yourself? Like, let's talk about investing in pre-tax, retirement money. So there's lots of ways, in addition to just expenses that you have related to businesses, different deductions. There's lots of ways to very above the board reduce your taxable income, but celebrate the fact that you're earning. I absolutely agree with that.
What other limiting beliefs do you hear?
Well, people always are like, it's so hard, right, to be wealthy. And I'm like, it's hard. I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to, I don't want to have I don't want to have to work 24 hours a day, or I don't want to have to, put in this time and effort. And when people talk about working hard, I often say, my definition of hard work is someone who's maybe like repairing a roof in the summer, right? If we're defining working hard as the measure of wealth, how about being a teacher in a classroom 8 hours a day? That's hard. Like, it's relative. It's not hard to become wealthy. It's, again, that mindset. And don't think about hard work is think about the jobs that are truly difficult, that are truly physically, mentally, and emotionally taxing outside of just the normal stresses. And I think that's another one. Or, everyone's heard, well, rich people are greedy, right? No, they're not. You can't give and share your wealth if you don't have it. And I would venture to say the rich people are the opposite, quote, if we're looking at it that way, of greedy, because they're very willing to support causes and charities and lift others up around them. And so I think, again, it's just a matter of really taking whatever limiting belief you have and sort of rationalizing, is this actually the truth? Like, can this 100% be true? And I would venture to say it's not. And you can actually start to sort of course correct that line of thinking and elevate it to a space of abundance and not lack and not scarcity.
Wow, that was beautiful. The greed part, oh, I can so relate. Rich people are greedy. But isn't that such a lack mentality? And I don't believe that you can acquire a good amount of wealth if you're coming from there is not enough for me out there kind of mindset. So it doesn't fit together. We have created that to keep ourselves small and to keep, in a starving artist mentality.
And to keep that distance, right? Where if I'm not there, then therefore I'm not perceived as bad, or right. And it's trying to sort of keep that distance in your own mind so that you can feel like it's a matter of putting someone else down to pick yourself up. And I don't believe in that as well. I don't think that's the energy and space that we have to play in. If you see someone that has more than what you have, but is something that you want, then you celebrate the heck out of them, because that shows that it's lifting your vibration. That shows that it's getting nearer to you. And you have to celebrate everyone else's wins. And then it's attracting that to you. It's putting you in that space and that vibration to bring that closer to you. And if you're seeing it in people near you, just count yourself as getting closer, right? Stop looking at it from the negative of, oh, I don't, or I can't. Get rid of that noise, right? They have it and I'm on my way. I'm excited to see them with it, because that's going to be me.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Let's pivot a little bit. When we're talking about the lack mentality, which is, I think, one of the biggest causes why people don't have money, because they don't believe they're worthy of it, or they deserve it, or they enough, or they can handle it. So when we're looking at like performing artists, there is this beautiful cloud of story waving over that entire industry, the starving artist mentality, meaning you have to give yourself up for the success. You're not able to earn. Arts should not be a profitable business. No, hands off. Arts can't be, a capitalist way of earning money. And that has trickled down in the, I would say, centuries to the people actually being unable to have a healthy relationship with money. The shorter contracts, the, not consistent pay, the lack of, I would say, financial substitutes in terms of insurances and
benefits. Yeah.
Benefits, right.
Yeah.
So now And that's one of the reasons why artists are starving, because they're already going into the industry or into their job with the belief that they can't make money. Okay. And even if they were to make money, they would do everything and anything to get rid of it. Okay.
Right. Yes.
Because that's the belief, that's the pathway that has been laid.
That's how you define success, right? Is you continue going, but you continue in that lack space of always having to work so hard to get the next opportunity, right? To beat out the next person, to struggle, because somehow that gives it more value.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. But my question is, so even if a performers, let's say, have like a 37, 38, maybe 40-week contract, let's take the Rockets. They make $1,500 a week.
Okay.
But they don't work more than 26 weeks out of the year.
Okay.
Okay. What could they do to structure their income? To structure it so that there is something for investing and saving and for the oopsie daisies.
Yeah.
And how, or, would you say that perhaps having a few more income streams coming in would actually be a good idea?
Okay, well, I'm obviously a huge fan of different income streams, as long as it doesn't take you out of your zone of genius to the point where you're distracted. I oftentimes see people who are amazing at their craft, right? Whether that's acting or dancing or whatever. And then, as you said, they have to, pay the bills in their mind. And so they'll take something on the side to have income. And I think you just have to be careful that that's not distracting you from focusing in on what you're really good at and amazing at, your zone of genius, so that you are maybe not as focused on where you could have the greatest impact. So I also like to call it the highest and best use of your time. So if you're, spending too much time trying to, create a network marketing business to help supplement, but you're not able to spend the same amount of quality time on your craft and what it is that could be your big income generator, that's where you have to really be careful. As far as I'm going to speak to, and I love this question, and I hope I'm taking it in a direction that works for you, but let's say you said the Rockets only work 26 weeks out of the year. And so, of course, I would love for them to have a different income stream, but if they didn't, how can they budget their money when they know they're only going to be paid a certain number of weeks a year? And so my solution to that, or anyone that has flexible income where it's not the same paycheck every time, is what I would like someone to do in that instance is to take a month, look at what your expenses are for that month, your rent, your, payments, your loans, your insurances, all of that. And then really look into what it costs you to live, your groceries, your fuel, your utilities, all of that. So let's say, I'm just going to use a random estimate. Let's say it costs you really $2,000 to live. Well, what I want you to do is to have your paycheck come into a particular account. And on the first of every month, move that $2,000 over to the account where you are using to pay your expenses and use your money. So even though you might have earned $5,000 that month because you got a particular contract or gig or whatever, move the $2,000 over, and there's $3,000 left over here in your savings account. So next month, maybe when you didn't have an income, but it's still going to cost you $2,000 to live, you can then move the $2,000 over because you're only using what you need to live in your account, and you're kind of keeping the other back, right? So just because you make $5,000 in a month and it only costs you $2,000 to live, well, don't spend the $5,000, because there's going to be months where your income isn't going to be the same and your expenses are still going to be there. So that's how I encourage people who have an inflexible, an income that is flexible, because it just depends on when the payments arrive, how you can kind of start to manage a monthly cash spending plan. So I hope that was partially helpful to answering your question. And then again, it goes back to how can we start to save, right? So everyone needs, I call it an opportunity fund. It's also known as an emergency fund. But again, I think languaging is important. But everyone needs to have a little bit of a nest egg where when something happens, they're not in a bind and they're not making a poor decision because they don't have financial resources to make a better decision. And that takes paying yourself first, even if it's in a small amount, even if it's just $20 a month that you're transferring over to a separate account, or you're pulling 20 out of an ATM and you're putting it in an envelope, and you're consistently doing that to start to build. I would hope it would be maybe even 50 or 100, but you need to start prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your financial, emotional self by having a little bit saved up, so that if something happens with your car, or if you want to take that trip that all your friends are taking, you have the resources to do it and it doesn't derail your plans. I would encourage everyone to just have some cash set aside that isn't just because I want to get my nails done, right? That's not this cash. And if you want to get your nails done, amazing. Put it in your cash spending plan. Plan for that money, but also figure out what brings you joy. I have so many conversations with people that do things because it's convenient, and they spend money because it's convenient, but it doesn't really bring them joy. So for me, I like to get my nails done. So that's in my monthly budget. I don't really care as much about eating out, right? I'm fine to eat out every once in a while, but I'm happy to cook at home. So I adjust my budget accordingly. I'd rather spend the $40 to get my nails done and eat home one night, right? It's all about making choices. And it's not to say that you're not going to get to the point where you can choose to do whatever, whenever, but people often want to kind of skip that sort of beginning and middle of the wealth journey, and they want to just get straight to the wealthy part. But there's some critical steps that we all have to take to get there. And most of it comes with working on your mindsets, knowing your numbers, having a cash spending plan, putting some money aside in an opportunity fund, and then starting to focus on your future, starting to have a $50 or $100 where you're putting in a Roth or a traditional IRA, and you're not planning on touching that money. You know, our two biggest assets are our earning potential, but then time. Time wants to give us money. So if you can invest and not touch it, that is how you're going to create that financial freedom for yourself in the future. And it's never too late to start, whether you're 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, it's never too late to start. And so all of, you know, the amazing artists in your community, if they haven't focused on their money mindset, now is the time. Today is a new day, right? Thank your, you know, previous mindset, thank your previous ego for trying to keep you safe, and start anew and start to take more control of your future. There's a lot of power in doing that. There's a lot of power in really just saying, I'm important here. And I think personal finance is self-care. Kind of that ultimate act of self-love is really knowing how your money's working for you, not against you.
Wow.
It's a really long answer.
No, it was very beautiful and very powerful, Amy. One thing that came up for me is that, you know, one of the biggest stressors that we as human beings are set out to is if there isn't enough, if money is an issue. It's one of the highest divorce rate reasons why people can't, because there's so much emotion bound behind it. There is literally survival associated with having or not having. That is why it is such a topic that we perhaps don't like to talk about, because if we don't know how to manage money or to, you know, save, invest, all of this, then we're not good enough, or we're not worthy, yet we're not taking the first step in actually learning. And I think that's where the gap is, that it's never too late to start learning about it.
Never. I mean, my favorite is, excuse me, my favorite is talking to younger people, right? Because I can see that they have this wide future ahead of them. And they have so many years of that dollar, that, you know, time value of money working for them. But, you know, someone in their 40s, you know, most people don't really decide to retire or move into that second phase of their life until their 60s. That's still 20 years, of growth. There's a lot of opportunity. And I my oldest client right now is, I think she's 72. And, we're still working a plan, and she's, still out there as an entrepreneur and doing amazing things. And she's also on Social Security, but that doesn't mean it's time to stop. That doesn't mean she can't continue. And so it's really just saying it's never too late. It's not. And thinking about, I almost want to say it's like taking your power back. And there's something really profound about stepping into the power there. And, people in your community or artist community, I mean, they're so powerful with their bodies, right? And they're so disciplined with so many things. So I don't want them to devalue themselves in this way, because you can certainly also apply those same concepts and same amazing habits to a money mindset, to starting to understand your finances. Because again, it's not complicated stuff. It's just stuff that we believe to be negative. We believe to be out of our reach. It's a matter of recognizing that we're all born worthy of whatever wealth and success comes to us. You don't have to earn it in that sense, your self-worth. But so often people are tying their self-worth to their actual worth, and they don't actually correlate.
Wow. Beautiful. So something that came up for me, and what I'm hearing over and over again, and I've been there too, I don't have enough to invest, like not even enough to invest in myself. Okay, I'm just gonna, right. And I, for me, had the association that I have to have a very full bank account in order to be able to invest money. And I'm gonna call bullshit on that, because
I'm going to high five you on that bullshit call.
Awesome.
And I was getting ready to say, what's enough?
Exactly. Let's start there. What's enough, right?
Right. What's enough could be $50 a month for you.
Yeah. What's
enough could be $500 a month for someone else. It's relative, and it's what feels comfortable to you. And it's also knowing that you might start with 50. Okay, that's today. But in 3 months, in 6 months, that 50 is, you're not going to miss it, right? You're not, if you automate yourself, that money comes right out. You're not going to miss it. So when it gets comfortable, increase it. Make it 75, make it 100. You don't have to invest thousands of money all at once.
Right.
Small increments over time are what make a difference. That's why 401ks are such an incredible investment. Excuse me. Because you're doing the same amount every paycheck in a corporate job. If I were to say, oh, give me 10,000 at the end of the year, that makes people like get all squishy. But if you're doing a regular amount every paycheck, you just start to not notice it. So when you can automate it, it doesn't really even hit your bank account because you're already moving it out of there. Then I started back in the day with, I remember $25 going here, $50 going there. It wasn't a lot, but what I did was consistently doing those small amounts. And then over time, as I earned more, I started to put a little more in there. What happens as Americans, especially, is we earn more and we spend more, and we earn more and we spend more. And people think the more they have, the more they prioritize spending versus actually thinking, okay, I could start to give a little bit of this away, right? I could start to save a little this for my financial future. And of course, spending is an option, and we should all have fun, but there's only so many things you can do with money, right? Spend it, save it, and give it away. And there's a combination of all of those that works. So stop thinking you don't have enough. Start thinking, I'm so excited, I can put this away, and automate that amount. And then eventually increase it a little bit. It's literally like a few keystrokes, right? It's all electronic, and you can go in inevitably and change it. So enough is a relative term. And I don't think there's an amount too small to start. I don't.
Right. And it used to be, though, let's say, like I would say in the 90s or even early 2000s, like that was the mindset of so many. I can't even invest money because I don't have enough, or I make other things priority, spend my stuff or my money on outside validation, perhaps,
Absolutely.
versus, okay, where am I numbing out? What am I doing here? I had to come to that. I would go shopping all the time just to make myself feel better for that moment. And then you would get home, it's like, crap, why did I do that?
I
Right.
call those wealthy now versus wealthy later choices.
Right.
Right. Like a wealthy later choice is starting to take $50 or $100 every month and save it for your future. A wealthy now choice is, well, I'm going to go to the mall because I'm having a bad day and I'm just going to, buy a few things, update my wardrobe, even though I just did it last month because that's going to make me feel better. Now, that's a wealthy now choice. That's going to make you feel wealthy now, right? But we need to balance our wealthy now and our wealthy later choices. We can have both. It's when the scales get tipped too far in one direction that life kind of gets off balance.
I love that you said that, because for me it came up, well, I don't want to wait until I'm 60 until I can show wealthy behaviors.
For sure.
However, you can have both. It needs to be living in harmony.
It's prioritizing what brings you joy.
Right.
Right. And so for me, travel brings me joy. Not driving a fancy car, not really wearing super fancy clothes. Travel is what brings me joy. So that is where I will prioritize my spending. I like to know I have several trips lined up. I like to know that they're going to be in cool new places and that I can go to a show or go here or go. That's what's important to me. That's what makes me feel wealthy now. But, I don't have to have a 6-figure car. That to me is a wealthy later choice. I'm happy to drive my Subaru, and so it's that balance, like you said, and we have to have both.
Yeah.
Right. I call it a cash spending plan because I want you to spend on things that bring you joy, but I want you to spend on things that are prioritizing your future as well. So saving.
What are you reading currently, Amy?
I'm currently reading The Body Keeps the Score, which is a totally different book. Which
doesn't matter. What
have you ever heard? The Body Keeps the Score. It's a book that is about how if you don't process, I guess, really your traumas, big T, little t, whatever, then your body is actually sort of holding those, and you need to really focus on, kind of releasing those and recognizing that that's a portion of like healing your mind and your body. And then it's funny, I have these here. I had a call earlier with someone who needed to kind of work on her money mindset. And so I pulled some books, which is so funny, that were from my library. So I have like Think and Grow Rich, like that's a good one. And obviously everyone knows Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. And then Smart Women Finish Rich. Come on now. Let's go. Wealthy women change the world. So
you know what? Yeah, they do. Absolutely, they do. And I think this old saying, or I believe that maybe I even grew up with still, was the man brings home the bacon and takes care of the finances, and I don't even know how to log into, and gosh, we've been there. I'm still there. Like, I'm like, what's the password, honey? How do I do a transfer? And I really have to, like, for me personally, get into that more, okay, have just as much access and knowledge and energetic alignment than anybody else in my house. So I think I'm going to put that out there, regardless of what your gender is. That should not condemn or enrich your financial relationship, I would say. Yeah.
I think I say personal finance is a team sport, right? And I don't think either spouse, or either partner, right, whether it's a business relationship, a romantic relationship, no one should abdicate their role. It should be a team sport. There should be the opportunity to have the conversations, to look towards the future, to kind of align those financial goals. Without having the conversations, we can't assume. We all know what that means, right? And you need to sort of have the talks. And sometimes they're crunchy. Sometimes those talks are uncomfortable, but we also have to have them in order to sort of consolidate the goal in a relationship. Because isn't the goal to be on the same team moving forward. But imagine if you're both combining your energy to a mutual financial goal, how much faster and how much more energy is going to be behind that. So have the conversation. Sometimes they're hard. We can do hard things.
Yes, we do hard things every day. And little trick, talk through a wall or through a door where you cannot see the partner's facial expression.
Facial expression.
Especially when it comes to money or sex, both either way, the not seeing the body reaction takes so much of the emotional pressure and the triggers away that opens us up to have a much more open conversation.
That's great advice. I've never heard that, but leave it to a beautiful dancer to really sort of acknowledge that that body language really is a separate language that can be interpreted maybe incorrectly in these hard conversations. So I think that's a great tip, for sure.
The years of marriage, baby. Yeah. It can us quite some time to figure that out, but particularly when it went or goes around money, right? We have so many stories that we both uncovered and still hanging on to, and like, then we need to separate rooms. Yeah, that's all it is.
Absolutely. And honestly, it's not a bad idea to have conversations about what the money conversation was in your individual childhoods and kind of see how that aligns together. It could be very different. And oftentimes we don't have this sort of conversation in depth before we're, partnered with somebody for a long-term relationship. And there's some things you have to work through, but it's worth it. Absolutely.
Okay. Where can we find you, Amy? And I also know that you started actually putting yourself more out there and starting to speak. So I'd love you to dip into that too. Like, what are you looking for? Who are you serving right now when we're talking about speaking engagements? So stage is all yours, baby. Lights all on you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, I absolutely love, my favorite audience is women, whether that's in a mastermind, whether that's on a podcast, whether that's in a corporate, setting. I love to talk to people about finances, about their money mindset, about not only owning, but shifting their limiting beliefs, about knowing their worth, automating their savings, and most importantly, I think, sitting in that space of giving and gratitude, because we all have something to give, whether that's time, talent, or treasure. So I feel like we talked about and how we open this so much about understanding and finances and financial freedom in the future is really owning and looking at our emotions around it and how that affects our decision making around it, and letting people kind of see behind the curtains that the numbers aren't scary. They're not difficult. You too can be a master of your own money. And sometimes it just takes shifting that perspective and having someone be a cheerleader for you and to open your mind to it. We don't know what we don't know. So having that opportunity to talk to people allows so many amazing conversations to happen later. And I feel like it's of service and allows me to really sort of help people open that door, sort of to like click on the light and look at that, what is perceived monster under the bed, and see that there's really nothing there but a beautiful future. So I am on Instagram, Amy W Getz, Getz Finance. I try to limit my social media time, but I am on there. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, and I am grateful to be on your podcast. I do work for a company called IRC Wealth, and the website's IRC Wealth, very clever. And I just am happy to have conversations. I call them Wealthy Women Creation Conversations, but we can just have a chat. And sometimes people just need to know what direction to go in. And maybe they're not an ideal client, but that doesn't mean I can't serve them where they are and help them to figure out what their next step should be. And maybe at one point in the future, we can be, have a working relationship. But conversations are what's important to me, and sharing my knowledge. And to say, I walk the walk. I don't just talk the talk. I've been working my own financial plan for well over a decade. I was a client of IRC Wealth before I worked there. So this is actually sort of what I feel like is my life's purpose, and it completely aligns with who I am. And I feel like serves the greater good. So,
Wow. You know, you and I met through community, right? Community of women, community of entrepreneurs. And I cannot say it often enough, but getting yourself into the rooms where other people are, where there's no judgment and where we're just really truly coming in to learn from each other, to help each other, to grow our network and our knowledge is, I don't know why I didn't do this earlier in my life.
right.
Truly, right?
And have met lifelong friends really in these spaces, like people that I would travel the world with and that, you know, I would make a priority to see if we're in the same city, like amazing connection.
Did.
Yes.
You did. When I was in Atlanta, I mean, you had a very short amount of time available.
And I was there. Yeah. Like, so I couldn't echo that sentiment any louder. Like, get in the room with amazing people and serve those that you're near, serve those that you're with. You're only going to up level yourself when you are in the space of giving gratitude, being positive, being a cheerleader, like seeking joy for everyone around you. All of that comes back to you. So absolutely be in the room and reach out, connect, listen, you know? Yeah.
Last question, darling. With everything that you know today, and let's assume your 16-year-old self would actually listen to you.
Or my 16-year-old daughter.
Yeah. Either one. Like, just
yeah.
Let's take yourself there, because that sometimes is even harder. What would you tell her?
I would tell her that you are worthy of everything that you want and that you can dream of. I would tell her that living in joy is the space where you're going to find the greatest leaps and bounds. And I would say yes, live life to the fullest, say yes to the adventure, and hang on for the ride, because it's a good one.
Oh, I love that. Amy, thank you so much.
Save early, start saving young too. Like, I have to also start putting some money away early, but you know, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's so much like, if we can choose to live in joy and we can choose to live in the positive, then why wouldn't we?
Right. And it seems so simple, but it's not easy, or we're choosing for it not being easy.
But when you have the awareness of it, so even though you can have those moments, if you're able to kind of flip that switch, or even give yourself permission, I am not above setting a timer for 10 minutes and just being mad and just letting it out, and then saying, all right, that time's over, right? Like, it's released and it's time to change it, change the energy and start fresh, which is what I say you can do with your finances. It's always a new day. Nice bow
that you said there, lovely. Thank you, my darling. Thank you for being here. I adore you. I am so grateful that you're in my life, that I had the pleasure of spending time with you. And guys, go follow her. She puts out really, really beautiful sentiments on her Instagram. Listen to this podcast again. There's some really good nuggets in there in terms of mindset and power and behaviors that particularly performing artists have taken on as something that isn't even yours anymore. It's something that somewhere along the line, the story has been put out that if you make money, you are not an artist, you're not great, you're not. No, that's all not true anymore. The more money we make, even if you don't want it for yourself, the more impact you will have on other people. And with that, I'm signing off. We are signing off today. We're sending you so much love. Thank you for listening. And till next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.